All right, I got a video I'm really excited to share with you today. This is how to use Google Colabs, just a very quick start guide in conjunction with Chat GPT. I believe that this can be helpful to a lot of people, and everyone is a coder now with the innovations that OpenAI and these large language models are bringing to the world, and that's what I want to dive into. So today I'm going to do a lightning fast intro into Google Colab, what it is, the basic interface. We're going to create a basic Chat GPT customization, and we're going to get it to talk like a surfer dude. We are going to run some of the code that Chat GPT has created for me. The example here will be creating some music, some melody files. And then we're going to load up a cookbook from GitHub so you can see how easy it is to load code into Google Colab so you can manipulate it and copy and paste it. And we're going to look at some common problems and how you might solve them. So, like I mentioned, I think that one of the biggest changes that this AI has brought to the world is that these walls between programmers and mere mortals like myself are crumbling fast. And if you're interested in experimenting and customizing ChatGPT, I think these Google Colabs are going to be well worth your time. It's the fastest, easiest way to get going with that. And most of what I want to explore in future videos, a lot of it anyway, is going to be related to these Google Colabs in ways that you can just get under the hood and experiment with OpenAI and all the various large language models that are coming out. So I wanted to create this video as a reference point for all of my future collabs and explorations. So what is a Google Colab Notebook? It's basically a cloud-based platform to rapidly prototype ideas, and this includes customizing ChatGPT and large language models. It also includes running the code that these large language models can create for you, and that's one of the examples we're going to get into in a second. It's user-friendly, and basically it saves you the time and effort of creating a Python environment on your computer. And that can be pretty daunting if you're not a coder. This can get you up and running very quickly. It's a professional grade tool that once you find something that works, you can actually share that with coders and create actual software products with it. It has access to some very powerful GPUs, some very powerful servers. So if you want to do some real heavy lifting, it's right in there. It starts for free, but then you can pay a little bit and get access to these massive computers that would really cost an arm and a leg to buy. So let's dive into it. I think the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your OpenAI API. There's a million videos out there about how to do this. Just go to their website, click anywhere on their developer menu there. That'll pull you into their platform side of their website. You log in and you can grab your API keys this is where they are right now in the current interface there. And now let's get into Google Colab. So you can do a search for these Google Colabs, or you go to collab.research.google.com. And we'll jump right in there and take a quick look at this interface. This is where you'll land, and this is a basic intro to this, and there can be many videos. These things can do a ton. We're not going to get into all of what they can do. We're going to get you up and running as quickly as possible so you can get some quick wins and get excited about learning more. Menu, fairly standard. Runtime is the thing you kind of use most here. You can also connect to a runtime here. I'll do that now. This is actually, you are connecting to these Google servers, and it'll show you kind of some stats on the machine that you're connected to. This can be helpful if you're getting a lot of errors and things just seem really crazy. Sometimes you want to reboot that. It just kind of restarts everything fresh. This is the main notebook area here. There's two different types of blocks, data blocks that show up in here. There's these texts. So this is just notes to yourself, notes to your team, notes to whoever you might share this with about the code. And then these are the code blocks, which are actually going to be running the code. And that's what we're going to be spending most of our time talking about today. The other portion here I wanted to share with you is this little folder. This is where it stores your files, it spits your files out. That took me a minute to figure out, so I thought I'd point that out. It's very obvious in retrospect, but that's where your folders show up. And this is a little bit of a confusing part, is how your files interact. Since it's not on your computer, it's on this server. That's maybe one of the areas of confusion that we'll get into later in this video. But that's it. That is basically the interface in a nutshell. And now I want to just get into what I spoke about earlier, making the Chat GPT talk like a surfer dude. So a very basic general customization. You may have seen these type of customizations out there where you can get the Chat GPT to talk like Jesus or a famous figure or something like that. Just a few lines of code, and we'll be able to do that for you today. The one thing, I'm going to talk about this a fair amount, is these packages. So you're going to want to import your packages. Packages are basically toolboxes that it's all the code that OpenAI has created is basically installed with just this line of code. And don't get intimidated. There's not a whole lot of code that you need to know to get some awesome stuff working. It's just a lot of copy and paste. Can get you pretty far. And then, I'll be sharing some resources with you if you want to learn exactly how to get better at Python, or get stuck if you get stuck with some different errors. So anyway, this is a big thing with these Collab notebooks. You're not always going to have these toolboxes or these packages installed. So these are the first things I want to go through. You want to install OpenAI. You want to connect it to your API key that we just discussed. And then this is another package that I highly recommend, this LangChain. You can do a lot of stuff just with OpenAI, but I think if you're at all serious about experimenting with these large language models, it makes sense to install this LangChain and start thinking about this code library, because this can make things a lot easier than just trying to use the raw OpenAI tools themselves. So let's switch on over to, this is a Collab notebook that I created, and you can see the first thing you do, copy and paste that, exclamation point, pip install OpenAI. That exclamation point is critical. You need that for Google Colabs. You will not need that if you're running Python on your local machine, so that can be confusing. If you're watching a tutorial that doesn't have that exclamation point, they're using their local machine. Anyway, just put that in front of it, and that should help you install this package. Pip install LangChain installs that package. And then OpenAI underscore API underscore key, put your OpenAI key in there, keep it private. This is how people can access your instance of OpenAI. So just share that with your team, or just keep it to yourself. That's where you want to connect that. And then we'll get into just these basically few lines of code, which is responsible for those customizations. A lot of what you see out there is just this basic customization of Chat GPT. In a nutshell, this is all they're doing. So I'm not going to go too deep into each line of these codes, but this first one is basically from that LangChain library, just pulling in a very specific part of that package. And then again, pulling in a specific part from that schema. And import, this is human messages. This is what humans say. This is what you're going to type in to this model. System message. So this is basically how you define that this is going to be a surfer dude version of Chat GPT or whatever. You can say, pretend you are a therapist. Pretend you are a whatever it is, historical figure, something like that. This is how you're going to do that customization. The AI message is what the AI is going to be returning to you. So it's just defining those terms right here. And then this is defining what this chat means. Chat equals to. We're not going to get into all of this. This is just connecting it to your OpenAI key. And this is really cool. The temperature is the amount of randomness that you want the chatbot to introduce. So this playing around with this can generate very different results. So that gets it set up. And again, I'll show you a place where you can get this code and copy and paste it in. But this is then just the chat message here. This is the system message. Remember, this is how you want the AI to act. So I told it, you're a surfer dude. Please format all of your responses using a laid back, casual, and friendly tone. Yada, yada. There's a lot in here. I actually used Chat GPT to come up with this. I said, hey, describe how a surfer dude talks. And Chat GPT came up with this long explanation, which is very helpful. It's much better than what I would be able to just say, hey, surfer dude talks, uses gnarly and tubular and all those words. This is a better description. So I used ChatGPT to create that, copy that in here. And then this is just the human message. So this is just as an example, I typed in, what is the best thing about surfing? This is the AI message it returns. Dude, the best thing about surfing is definitely the rush you get when you catch the gnarly wave. It goes on and on. Clearly not talking like your standard ChatGPT. And that's it. Just with a few lines of code, you have created that customization that is, a lot of what you're reading about. A lot of the things people are doing with this is just manipulating it like this. It's that easy to get under the hood and customize it. So that is the first example. Now I want to jump back into showing you how you can grab a GitHub notebook and pull that into Google Colab and use that, because that's where I got some of this code that I just showed you. Was from this awesome tutorial. Let me see here. Not there. Yes, this guy, Greg, has created some amazing tools for how to use LangChain. And you'll notice that the code that we just looked at is basically this. Instead of, he said a nice AI bot that helps you figure out what you want to eat. That was his example, but here's his code, and here's how you can get at this code. So this is in GitHub. And I just am grabbing a link from the, and I'll put this in the description, but I'm grabbing a link from GitHub. And then we're going back to, here's your, when you first get to Google Colab, this is where you go. This is what opens up. And now we're going to open a notebook. We're going to go to GitHub. We're going to copy and paste that URL from GitHub right in here. You can see this is a Python notebook, if you can kind of see it right there at the end of the file name. Click enter. It searches for it. Boom. It's that easy to pull it in. And there you go. Now you can actually run this code. When it's on GitHub, you can't run it. So a lot of times you'll find these links to different cool things on GitHub. And most people would download this and run it on their local computer, but you can just copy the URL of that right into Google Colab and start running and playing around with this code and copying and pasting this code here. So the one I just showed you of how to make a surfer dude is just these lines of code, and you can start manipulating it, playing with the temperature, playing with the system message, telling it, hey, I want you to talk like Elvis or whatever it might be. And then, this is the human message. This is how you interact with it. And this is what the AI responds with. So anyway, it's just that easy. The problem is, like I mentioned, if you just start to run this, obviously you need to put your API key in there, but it doesn't have the packages installed. So remember, here we're going to install the packages. I'll show you just how to do this. You want that OpenAI package, copy, paste that in. We're going to do another code block here. We're going to pull in the LangChain package, LangChain library. Get that in here. We're going to run these. We're going to run it anyway. And here it is, just pulling everything in. I've already run this a few times, so it says it's already in there. LangChain's going to say the same thing. But now you're up and running and have these libraries installed. And now everything in here should work as soon as you put your API key in. So there you go. That is how you load in some code from a GitHub library, and you can start copying and pasting those different code blocks, trying to figure, you can load those code blocks back into Chat GPT and say, hey, what is this doing? And it'll explain what that's doing. Like I mentioned, this is how the walls are crumbling between developers and just regular, tech-minded folks. Next example that I want to get into is, without even accessing the the OpenAI API, Chat GPT in itself can create a lot of code. So I want to get into this music example that I was telling you about. The way I dabbled in Python first was I was trying to get it to create music, to create melodies. And these melody files are called MIDI files. So I asked, hey, once ChatGPT came out, I said, hey, can you write MIDI files? 5 words. It said, hey, I can't actually make MIDI files, but I can make basically code that is MIDI files. I can make a text version of a MIDI file, a text version of a melody, and here's the code that you will need to access this melody and to run this and to turn this into a MIDI file. So what's fantastic, you can just copy and paste this code into Google Colab. I'm going to reconnect to my runtime. So I've copied and pasted this code in here. The one thing though, remember, it says import Mido, M-I-D-O. You want to install that package. So that's really all you need to know is, hey, pip pip install Mido, and run that. So it's going to install this and then run this file, and lightning fast, it has spit out this example MIDI file, which is a melody. If you're a musician, you could grab this, you can download this into your desktop right there and pull that into your music software. That can be Ableton or whatever your digital audio workstation is. So right there, you have now, just with 5 words, created a software that can can help you create music, melodies using Python and using these Google Colab notebooks. It's just that easy. So think about things you can ask ChatGPT, hey, can you create me some code to organize my calendar or whatever it might be, and see what it spits out, and then put that into a Google Colab. Remember to install any packages that it mentions, and you are off and running with a pretty powerful tool. So jumping back in here, again, common problems. You want to make sure that the packages you need are installed. So again, that pip install. You're going to run into potentially errors due to the fact that you're running on Google servers rather than your own computer. So when it spits out files, it's going to put them into that different file folder, and connecting that to your Google Drive. You want to make sure that you save all of those to your local machine or to your Google Drive, because when you kill that runtime, when you disconnect from their server, those files are going to disappear. So there's all little nuances there that are a little different, and a lot of times the tutorials and different things you're looking at will be using Python on a local computer, but in fact you'll run into some errors there because you're running on Google's server. But I think it's a great trade-off, especially if you're just getting going. Other things you might run into is if it's a different version of Python. So that's something that I've come across where I've generated some code, or ChatGPT has generated some code. Someone sent me some code that is just on an earlier version of Python. So those are the things that I've run into. But good news, if you get stuck, ChatGPT itself can really help you debug. So if there's an error message that you're getting, toss it right into ChatGPT. Say, why am I getting this? Especially if ChatGPT itself created the code, it might say, hey, I'm sorry, here's a better version, try to run this. Just copy and paste that new code back into your Collab, or ask it to explain what an error message is. Ask it to explain what each little piece of code is. That can help you debug. If you are still getting stuck, Code Mentor is a great place for you to get some human help. It's kind of a phone a friend if you're still stuck. And again, you don't really need to find, machine learning AI experts. Oftentimes you just need somebody who knows a little bit of Python that can help you debug the Python. And if you want to get even more in the weeds and really learn Python, Code Academy has a free course, Learn Python 3. Google that. Pretty awesome. We'll get you going on the basics and up all the way through some, fairly good foundation of Python. So I hope you got a lot out of this. In my Patreon, I have a cheat sheet, sort of a checklist version of all of this for a few bucks that you can grab. I make these for all of my videos. They're there in the Patreon. I have a growing number of Google Colabs in there, the collabs we looked at here. I have there and some options there. I love talking about this stuff. So if you're looking for some one-on-one coaching, consulting, just kind of talking through what you're dealing with. Again, I'm not a programmer, but I am learning a ton about how to customize these machine learning models and sort of architect various use cases for them. So I'd love to chat with you in there. And again, I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really super helps trying to get a YouTube channel off the ground. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.